What's up, guys? That guy with the pencil here, and as you can see, I may have already accidentally done this tier list and just lost the recording, but I didn't tell you that, you found that out on your own. But basically, let me just run through the tier list real quick and explain all my views on all the original Ben 10 aliens, because the Ben 10 aliens were some fire all around, even the ones in Why Do You Exist, but I'm gonna get to that, So, the bottom tiers, the Why Do You Exist, it comes down to, let me talk at them one at a time. Frankenstrike, he's something else. He's something else. And I say he's something else because I don't like what he is. And the reason I say this is that it pertains to like all the Halloween aliens except for the one that was just introduced from the start. I feel like they were put in there to be put in there, and Frankenstrike is like, I don't want to say the most unoriginal, but out of all the aliens that we ended up getting, he literally was just Frankenstein. Like, I don't really see what else you could really call him other than Frankenstein, because they literally just made Frankenstein and said, boom, that's an alien. And same thing with Blitzwolfer, boom, that's an alien. And they said the same thing with Snarrow, boom, that's an alien. But the reason Frankenstrike is just at the bottom was just because I felt like he, despite the interesting utility he could have had, he was like pre-patch Brainstorm, and the fact that he had the electricity, he was so rarely used after like the arc he showed up in, that he just never had any utility after that. Like, I only remember him in the middle of the Ghostfreak arc, and it just stops there. He doesn't have any like cool moments that stick out to me. He doesn't have any extra factors that made me like him a whole lot more in comparison to some other aliens that didn't show up as much. So Frankenstrike really just like gets put to the bottom for me for the fact that he just did so little, and his design is so just basic. Like, they made Frankenstein. Like, it's cool that you made a Ben 10 Frankenstein, but like, I can just look up Frankenstein. Oh my, I can just look up Frankenstein. I don't know. It doesn't personally do it for me that much. That's why he's at the bottom, and the whole reason Blitzwolfer's at the bottom, alongside Frankenstein, Why Do You Exist, or Frankenstrike. See, look at that. The reason Blitzwolfer's at the bottom is just because his introduction episode is still, I'm not exactly sure that episode happened. Like, I'm confident it probably does exist. I know I've seen it multiple times, but I remember watching it even when I was younger and being like, this is weird. Like, this is just weird. Like, I remember it felt like I think it was like the first episode in the Ghostfreak arc, so it had like, it was important to setting up things that would occur later, but I still distinctly remember watching it and having this look of just abstract confusion on my face. Like, what are we going through? What is this? Why are we here? What is going on? And the ironic thing is, I think this is like the first episode that introduces the scan, or the DNA download function of the Omnitrix. And that's a really cool function, but the way they did it, the way Ben slowly transformed into Blitzwolfer throughout the entire episode, and the whole awkward relationship he had with that girl that he was hanging out with as he transformed into Blitzwolfer, it was just really, really weird and awkward. And I think it works out because it's in the middle of the Ghostfreak arc, so obviously everything's gonna be a bit weird and awkward, but in the moment, I didn't like it. And especially, like, he has a solid design. Sure, he's just werewolf Ben, but he has mostly solid design. But what always throws me off whenever I look at him is whenever he opens his mouth in the 4 waves and fires out sound waves, pre-patch echo, I'm just like, oh my, you are absolutely disgusting. Please back away from me. I don't know. I just, like, you really had to make the howl be like that, huh? Like, he couldn't just open his mouth normally. You had to, ooh, that's some detail you put inside that mouth too. Ugh. Like, Blitzwolfer was just nasty. He really was nasty. And once again, I'm not exactly sure how many times he showed up after the Ghostfreak arc. Like, I know he had that whole episode, and that's about it. Like, I don't ever remember him being utilized again. And that just leads to a lack of really any interest for me in the alien, since he had so little uses, and utility-wise, like, I'm not sure what he provided. Like, in terms of, like, raw utility, like, oh, this is an alien I need to transform into for this situation, I'm not sure what Blitzwolfer, and this goes with Frankenstrike too, I'm not sure what these two could do that a better utility alien, like Forearms or Heat Blast or Diamond Head or Accelerate, couldn't. So there was a reason he didn't show up that often, and that's kind of sad. So yeah, he doesn't have really good appearances. His first appearance was really jacked up and weird to me. Never liked it. That's why he's in Why Do You Exist. Going on to the next one, I do have to talk about Snarrow, and the reason why he's in Meh and not Why Do You Exist. Once again, he is just a mummy. Like, I can't really argue in favor of that. The only difference I like about Snarrow more is the fact that he is literally just the bandages, and he's honestly knockoff Wildvine. In short, if you want me to be direct and honest with what I think about Snarrow, he is knockoff Wildvine, but I like this knockoff Wildvine. Like, he's interesting enough. I kind of enjoy it. But the thing about this knockoff Wildvine Snarrow is that he did show up. He had that one moment, I believe it was in the, it was once again the Ghostfreak arc. He showed up there. That was about it. And we were done with it. And I know he shows up in, like, the Ken 10 episode in the future that one time. That's the only reason he's in, like, Meh. I like his design a lot more than the other two. He doesn't have anything weird about him like Blitzwolfer does. And he's not just he's not fully boring and generic like Frankenstrike. So I'm giving him that little pass. Fine, he gets boosted up a little bit, but he's still a Meh. iGuy is also Meh, just because he makes me feel super uncomfortable. Like, looking at iGuy, even now, like, as I've gotten more used to his design, is like, who sat down and approved this? Who looked at this and was just like, yes, this is an alien? And if you look at any of iGuy's renders, or any pictures of him, he's always looking at you. It is always super uncomfortable. Like, I'm not sure who approved iGuy, and I'm not sure what iGuy's really utility was. Like, I keep talking about utility, but why would you ever transform an iGuy? I guess for, like, the variety of things that he can shoot from his eyes and, like, the massive laser beam from his main eye. That's why he's cool. That's why I think he's above, like, all the 3 Halloween aliens. But other than that, like, his design is a bit weird. He doesn't show up that often, and I'm not even sure I remember his debut episode. Like, I can remember good chunks of, like, a lot of these aliens' debuts episodes, but I don't remember iGuy. I feel like he first showed up in the, and then there were 10, like, Forever Knights massive villain collab thing, but I'm not sure if that was his first appearance. If so, that's kind of weird. He was kind of never even given time to be introduced. He kind of just popped up, and not in a cool way like Ditto did. So I'm not sure what happened with iGuy. I'm not sure. iGuy is like the Blitzwolfer episode. I'm not exactly sure if we all collectively dreamed him up, and then Cartoon Network was just like, oh yeah, he exists, and you just have to roll with it, or he just, iGuy still just, he's weird. He's weird. In short, he's weird. That's why he's in Meh. Now, moving up to OK, you know, we have to put the boy Ripjaws up there. Now, Ripjaws, sadly enough, he has utility in quotation marks. He's the underwater alien, but, like, there were so rarely any times for Ripjaws to be used. Like, he was the alien that Ben didn't want to turn into, because honestly, he only had that one function, and then he had his jaws. But other than that, he needed water. He was the alien that you literally turned into by pure accident, and he needed to be in a certain place in a certain time, and you could never really use him for anything else. He has funny moments, like, and he's part of one of the fusions that I like in the original series. He fused with Heat Blast, which was really, really weird. But other than that, Ripjaws was kind of just there, and not in the good way. He was kind of just there. Like, he was there to be the, oops, I didn't want to transform into this one gag again and again and again. And he has his moments when he's cool underwater, like when he fought the Kraken, but I believe he fought the Kraken. But other than that, he kind of just doesn't have much, so I can't really give much to Ripjaws. Like, there's not even much to talk about, because he doesn't show up that often with a purpose. Like, he shows up by accident, and it's like a one-scene gag, and then Ben transforms. Or, well, he reverts, and then later on transforms into the alien that's actually useful. But I like his design, though. That's the thing. I do like his design a good chunk. Like, I actually do like as weird as the human anglerfish is, I actually kind of like the design. That's why he's in OK and not in Meh or Why Do You Exist. For Stinkfly, he once again falls into the, ooh, you make me uncomfortable, dog, kind of tier, because my instinct normally is I see an insect, I smash it. If you're in my home, I need to take my flip-flop and smack you upside whatever nearest surface. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I have to do it. And Stinkfly always made me, I always wanted to take, like, a forearm-sized fly swatter and smack Stinkfly out of the air. Because he always just, whew, he was weird. But once again, the reason he's up in OK, and the reason I don't mind him as much, is because he had really, 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 really good utility. Like, he was the flying alien for a reason. He was the only flying alien that was like multi-useful. Other because like you could say, oh well, Ghostfreak and Heat Blast could fly, but Stinkfly could fly and take other people with him. Ghostfreak, maybe he could lift people, but I don't remember him doing it. And Heat Blast would burn the person alive if he tried to carry them off with him. So Stinkfly always had that really good utility. And whenever he showed up, he shockingly showed up with a purpose. Like, he was the alien that Ben went to whenever he needed to make a quick escape, or he had to take a fight to the air. And those are always really cool. Stinkfly has really good moments. Like, he has a lot of moments against Dr. Animo for obvious reasons. And I like him a lot. It's just that his design is really what knocks him down, like, a few pegs into okay. But other than that, I still think Stinkfly is actually pretty good. Pretty solid design. It's just that he's a bug, and I beat bugs. Then we're getting into the great tier, and we got Upchuck. Now, I really like Upchuck, if only for the fact that he's such a strange kind of alien. Like, this is one of the ones that was so out there that you think, oh, this could never work in multiple situations. But then he works in multiple situations, and I like his design, this little pert thing that just eats everything. I like that he can't even eat organic food. He has to eat or contain non-organic food that people can't eat, inedible stuff, and then he spits it back out as energy. He can just launch it back out. And one of my favorite moments from him is when at the end of the villain team up, when he just swallows the device that has 10 times more energy than the sun and just vaporizes Mount Rushmore. I was just like, whoa. So he's strong, and he always shockingly is. Whenever he showed up, he would do things and just make it work. Like, he would roll up and be like, this guy. And then he would figure it out. Like, he figured out every time Upchuck showed up. He worked so well in the situation. He was unlike Ripjaws in the sense that if he accidentally did transform into Upchuck, usually he could work in the situation, and Ben didn't mind turning into him, while Ripjaws was always just really an inconvenience. So I really did like Upchuck a lot. I think he's really, really cool, if not a bit weird. He is a bit weird, but all the aliens are a bit weird, except for the top ones are kind of just cool. Like, I'm not even gonna lie. And let's talk about Gray Matter. Gray Matter, I like Gray Matter a lot, and he's in great. I know I said I like Gray Matter a lot, but I think he's like in the bottom half of the aliens on here. But I like him a lot because, once again, utility. Like, whenever Gray Matter showed up, you knew, like, we're gonna get some complex thinking, because it's one of the few aliens it not only transforms Ben's body to attribute to like a combat situation, which is what basically all the other aliens are for, like combat or for mobility, but it changes Ben's mind to give him access to more information, more knowledge, and that gives him a brand new approach to a situation that very few other aliens had. Like, the superpower of being super smart is weird to think about, especially in such a small package like Gray Matter, but it works out in the sense that Gray Matter had free reign to figure whatever out whenever he needed to show up. When he had that little moment where he was the only sane person in that town of taking over people, he was able to make that work. When he had that moment in the jelly bean jar, he was able to make that work. He showed up and did things that no other alien could because of his intelligence and his small size. It took the two things about him, what he added to Ben and the change he did, and made them both work every time he appeared. And that's actually really, really impressive. Like, I'm actually shocked how much utility this little gray man did. And he gets bonus points because he's the same kind of creature that he's a Galvan, just like Azimuth, the creator of the Omnitrix. And I like how he was used by Ken 10 in the future to hack the Omnitrix, and makes me sad that Ben never did that. But yeah, I really like Gray Matter a lot. He's really, really cool. Moving on to the next one, Ditto. I like Ditto a lot, and I remember when he first showed up in that episode, I believe it was in season 4, he was kind of just, he was really, really, it was literally just having like 4 Bens that happened to be aliens. Like, there was very little difference between Ben and Ditto. Like, even size-wise, I think Ditto is actually smaller than Ben, but that utility of having multiple beings with almost like, it's weird to say a hive mind, because they don't all think the same way. They all have their own thoughts and feelings and interactions with one another, but they had that nice, like, linked, not a hive mind, but the same thought process, so they can all think of something and then immediately look at one another and be like, yes, this is what we're doing, and then they immediately leap into it. Like, every time Ditto showed up, he had really, really, really good scenes of him working together, like them in his initial episode, all working together against Animo's creations. That's really good. When he was in the wrestling episode, he managed to take over that entire wood chipping facility and use it against them. He always would show up and do certain things that one alien, unless it was like Accelerate, who could do it all at super fast speed, couldn't do because there were multiple bends. And it ended up working out. And the cool factor that I like that Echo doesn't have in a Versus sense, because Versus, it's a lot easier for Ben to utilize Echo than it would be for him to use Ditto. The fact that they're all linked in pain is also just a really, really interesting thing, because it makes you question, are they one person? Are they multiple people? What's their level of sentience and independence if they're all linked by this one single thought process? But if they're all linked by this single neural network where they all feel the same amount of pain. So I like a lot about Ditto. Just that I like all the aliens above him more. I think he has a really solid design. I think he has really good uses and utility. I think he's really cool. But a lot of the aliens above him I just like better. Speaking of aliens above him, let's get into Cannonbolt. So Cannonbolt showed up in the Big Tick, and I remember looking at the Big Tick and being like, ew, that's nasty. And I remember looking at Cannonbolt and going, ew, that's nasty. But then Cannonbolt actually got his roll on, if you want to say that, and he managed to be a really, really, really solid alien despite what you would think. Like, considering he's like most of the time wobbling around whenever he's walking, but the moment he goes into that ball, it becomes this like unstoppable force of destruction, kind of like unparalleled unless you're like Forearms or Diamond Head or Waybig. Because like Cannonbolt would just destroy things. I remember in the wedding episode, he fought one of the evil wedding people and completely doused them in water. He at the end of the Ghostfreak arc was the whole reason that they all survived landing back on Earth, because he literally held Grandpa Max and Gwen inside of the ball and entered through the atmosphere, was lit on fire, and collapsed dead into the Earth and took it. So Cannonbolt just has multiple moments where he is just cool, like actually just straight up really, really solid and cool and impressive. And you wouldn't think for such an interestingly, like, for such a strange design, you wouldn't think that it would work out as well as it did, but Cannonbolt worked out really, really well. And I'm glad. He's really, really cool. And it's kind of sad. I'm pretty sure his species is extinct, but I know that it isn't even brought up in the original series. Actually, no. And I love how, like, Cannonbolt's one of the few instances where another alien species recognizes another alien species. Like, it builds into the fact I love lore so much, and Ben 10 has such an expansive universe, even in the original series, that I love how his species name is just brought up, and it's just a part of the world now. He really, really helps with that, and I like that a lot. Cannonbolt, really, really good. Wildvine, another character that has a shocking, like, you would think a talking plant man, you know, he can't have that much utility or like abilities. He's just like a talking plant. But no, the way he extends, the way he regenerates, the way he has bombs coming out of his back, the way he's able to communicate with other plants, the way he's able to take them over, like, pre-patch Swamp Fire was pretty darn fire. Like, whenever Wildvine showed up, you're just like, whew, what's he gonna do now? Because I believe his first episode was when they were in Camp Fear, and the big mushroom or fungus was taking over everything. And the main question I was having was like, are we going to get a heat blast situation where he's just going to burn everything to the ground? But then Wildvine showed up, and Wildvine was just like, whoa, I can communicate with this thing. Whoa, I have bomb. Whoa, like, every time Wildvine discovered a new ability, from his regeneration to his plant bombs to just the fact that he could stretch so far, it was always really, really cool. And whenever he showed up, it would always lead to an interesting situation, since his power set for a talking plant was rather diverse. Like, he could fit in a lot of situations that you wouldn't expect a talking plant to be able to fit into, and that's really, really impressive. Like, I remember him also when in that episode where the hypnotist guy was taking over everything, and it was Wildvine who managed to save a whole ton of people's lives. Like, he saved Grandpa Max and Gwen by holding them up. He managed to latch Ben up onto the massive clock and ended up saving the day. Because Wildvine's just really, really cool, really, really solid utility, in the sense that he doesn't have as many appearances as a lot of the aliens above him, but whenever he does show up, he does something cool, and he does something new and unique that the other aliens in that same situation could not have done. And that's where a lot of these upper aliens, like I'd say great and above, just in general, and even okay with Stinkfly, what a lot of them have is, if you put them in a situation, if you remove them from that situation, other aliens couldn't have filled that niche. Like another alien could not have done that. And that's really, really solid design for power-wise and when you're making a series. So that's really, really good. Impressed with Wildvine. For both Ghostfreaks, as much as I'm not a fan of the scary things, wow, these two were solid. And honestly, one of the best, if not the best arc in the original Ben 10 was the Ghostfreak arc. And the way that Ghostfreak like tore himself free from the Omnitrix, and it made you ask questions you didn't think the series would make you ask. Like, it literally made you think, like, wait a sec, are all the aliens sentient? Because Ghostfreak seemed like such an abnormality. Even before he started breaking out the Omnitrix, he was such a figure of mystery. Like, once again, he has that utility where he's just this ghost that can pass through anything, possess creatures, do all the stuff like that. But then you just have the question of, what exactly is Ghostfreak when he starts to get sentient and he's trying to tear his way out of the Omnitrix and Ben reverts and he sees Ghostfreak still there. Like, then just leads into one of the best arcs in the original series. And it's really, really great all around for Ghostfreak. He has a solid design. His appearances were cool. Whenever he showed up, he was useful. Like him against Zombozo. Him scaring Zombozo is such a trip. Like when he just pulls himself open to reveal only a part of his true form, then you're just like, then it leads you to wonder, well, what is in there? Because then it makes you realize something's in there. And then that builds up, and then you see his true form. Then you have the entire arc. All around, it's really, 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 really solid. It's fantastic, and I really, really like it. Ghostfreak, great alien, all around. 12 out of 10 would scare me again. Now, the top of great, I gotta put Wildmutt there. Like, and Wildmutt, he's interesting because he has no eyes. Like, the boy ain't got no eyes. So it makes you wonder, well, what's this dog gonna do? But whenever Wildmutt showed up, he was, once again, just like in the Wildvine situation, like shockingly useful. He wasn't as strong as Forearms. He wasn't as fast as Accelerate. He didn't have, I don't know, like as sharp claws as Ripjaws' teeth. I don't know. But he always showed up and managed to make a situation work. And just due to his design, like the mix of the ape and the dog and like the feline features, like for such a weird build for a creature, he always worked. And he has some really, really cool fight scenes. Like, and he just has really, really cool moments. Like, once again, I remember in the Hypnosis episode at that mall, it sounds weird, but he fights those old people. And it's one of the weirdest fights ever, but it's really, really cool because of Wildmutt's specific biology. And the way he works and interacts with a lot of the other beings in the world of Ben 10 is super interesting to observe, because he has such a strange utility. Like, he has those really, really, really enhanced senses like a dog would. And he uses them to his advantage and sometimes to his disadvantage. Whistling really, really hurts him and stuff like that. Or like high-pitched frequencies really, really hurt. But he can also still be really, really useful. Like, he can climb surfaces. All around, Wildmutt's really, really, really cool. And he was, once again, just like Cannonbolt has a moment where we acknowledge the wider universe. Wildmutt has a moment. I believe it's in the Trader Plumber episode where we meet one of Max's old training partners who's turned evil. We see older Vulpamancers, and then like we wonder, whoa, is Ben gonna turn into that? And the way I believe Ben literally just recognizes their species off these little slight traits, clocks up the Omnitrix, smacks down, and he's Wildmutt. He's communicating with them, and it's those little moments like that that make the universe feel so much larger and so much more interesting, because that means there are other Wildmutts out there. There's a whole planet or civilization of these creatures, and it makes you wonder how they live. Wildmutt, all around, really, really great, really, really solid, really, really good. That's why I like him so much. He has that mix of, oh, I have really solid utility, shockingly enough, and he expands the world in a really good way. And I actually like his design, even though it is a bit weird. Now, getting up into perfection, we got Diamond Head. So Diamond Head was always really, really cool, and I'm not even going to talk about Diamond Head in later series. Just Diamond Head in the original series was always really, really cool, because you wouldn't think much of Diamond Head until you see what he could do. Like, the fact that he has a Gatling gun for an arm, the fact that he can touch the ground and just make an entire valley of crystal, the fact that he's pretty much impervious to almost everything. And, like, this is what you're going to see with a lot of these aliens. They fit in almost every single situation because they have that good mix of almost like everything you could need in a situation. Like, you need power, you can still use Diamond Head. You need range, you can still use Diamond Head. You need defense, you can still use Diamond Head. Diamond Head fit in so many situations that was honestly unsurprising that he showed up so much. Unsurprising that Ben got so much practice with him. And once again, that nice juicy world building that Ben 10 excels at a lot. When another Diamond Head showed up, when another Petro Sapien showed up in, I forget his name, another Petro Sapien showed up, it's just like, whoa. So like, can you teach Ben things? And he teaches Ben things about the form that Ben never even thought about. And I love how Diamond Head is constantly built upon. Like, he starts off not simple, really, because he's still very, very confusing to Ben when he first shows up. But even his first appearance, he, like, destroys massive robots because he's Diamond Head. He's that metal. The way that Ben constantly, every time he turns into Diamond Head, he figures out a new thing. Like, and actually, he puts an extra tool in the toolbox every time he uses Diamond Head in a different way. And that's really, really cool, really solid. Honestly, his design's great, too, for how simple it is. That's why it's up in perfection. Great design, great utility, great usage, great appearances, great fights. Heat Blast, once again, super amazing. Like, for the first alien we ever saw, like in the And Then Where We're 10 episode I still think is one of the greatest intro episodes to a series ever. The way he showed up and the sheer, like, Heat Blast has such a presence to him that is honestly hard to quantify. Like, he is, once again, a shockingly useful alien in a whole ton of situations because he has just enough super strength, he has just enough power, he has just enough range, he does, once again, has that little mix of everything on top of a solid design, on top of enough appearances that he just does cool stuff whenever he shows up. First time he shows up, he starts a forest fire, then fixes the forest fire. Another time he shows up, he defeats an entire, like, legion of these little electric things by sitting them in a jar. Every single time he shows up. And once again, he almost has the Diamond Head factor where he's used in interesting ways, like when Ben learns to fly with Heat Blast, or when Ben got sick and Heat Blast ended up having his powers reversed and he was able to freeze everything. That was also really cool. And once again, it's not necessarily a point to Heat Blast, but his design is so easily transferable. Like, looking at Kevin's partially transformed Heat Blast arm is great to look at because it just shows how simple yet solid that design is. Also, he has a really cool voice. Like, I don't know. I like Heat Blast's voice a lot. Same with Diamond Head. Like, I like their voices a lot. So all around, Heat Blast is really, really cool. Really, really solid. And shockingly useful for being just made of literal fire rocks. Moving up to the next rung of perfection, we got Forearms. And, you know, you're probably wondering, like, what? Forearms is such a weird, simple design. And he's literally just the name. He's four-armed, and he's so cool. Like, Forearms is solid. That's what I have to say about Forearms. He is so unbelievably solid because you could throw Forearms into so many situations and he would just be like, I bet we here, dog. And he would just do so much for a guy who's 12 feet tall and has super strength. Like, every time you would show up and fight someone too, like, it would get... Forearms brought out the fisticuffs. Like, very few of Ben's aliens were, like, direct head-to-head combat fighters. Like, you had, like, your occasional, like, fist fights with Diamond Head and Heat Blast and Wildmutt and, like, Accelerate. But, like, if Ben went Forearms, he was scrapping with folks. Like, he was throwing them hands. Like, he did not care. He had 4 of them. He had 2 to spare. So if you only had 2 arms, he was ready to throw them hands at you. And he just always would. He would roll up and do whatever. Like, one of the most iconic shots in the intro is when Forearms is just sitting there. And he has this concrete pillar in his hands. And he senses something behind him. And he swings and cracks that thing wide open. It's just like, whoo. Impressive. And then he just goes throughout the rest of the series and is just constantly bam, 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 bam. Like, he forms at some of the most amazing fights. If for the fact that him just being super strong, and the way that Ben works that, like the super long jumping, the thunderclaps, just the hand-to-hand grab. Like, one of my favorite fights with Forearms is when, in the episode where Kevin is like constantly transforming and can't maintain his human form, and he finally goes into that 10 aliens form, where he has all the aliens' powers. You know who beats him? It's Forearms, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, it's Forearms. Ben 10 literally outboxes Kevin, and it's one of the most amazing things to see, because it shows how useful just that super strength is. He doesn't have that little bit, he has a whole lot of it, and the Forearms really work out. I like it a lot. Forearms is fantastic, really great design, really great utility all around, really good. But Upgrade is above him, just because Upgrade was Wildvine, but better, in the sense that whenever Upgrade showed up, you instantly started scanning the environment. What's he gonna take over? What's he gonna do now? Like, Upgrade was the alien that made you question, what's gonna happen next? Because he would literally upgrade things to the most insane level, and I'd be left so confused. I'd be like, wait, what is going on? How is this going on? What is transpiring? And it would always work out in the sense that, yes, Upgrade was here, and he was going to change something about the environment. Like, he turned a clock, just a regular mall clock, into a helicopter. He showed up, and I'm pretty sure he mutated an airplane into an attack airplane. Whenever an Upgrade showed up, he would do something really cool. And if it was just that, maybe he wouldn't be as high. But then he's so useful in of himself. Like, he's basically indestructible. He's a living pile of metal that can do whatever it wants. Like, he took a whole ton of hits. He's been blasted with lasers, just instantly got back up. And then, I know this is like really simple, and like I shouldn't give this as much praise as I do, but if I have to say what is so cool about Upgrade, I remember in the episode where it was Ben against like all the beings in the rubber ball, like the electric creatures, the megawatts. Upgrade got so angry, he randomly just squinted really hard and fired a laser beam. Like, huh? I still remember my mind being blown to this day. I was like Ben in that situation. I'm just like, you can do that too? And the way you can write it off as, oh, it makes sense, he's a living being of metal. Of course, he has some internal energy. You should probably be able to fire it off. But still, even without the explanation that you can come up with, it's really cool. Upgrade is just really cool. He has a really solid design. I actually kind of prefer his original series design to like all his later designs too, because they try to make him all green, and I kind of don't like that. But yes, Upgrade, really solid design, really cool, like him a lot. But above him though is Waybig, and I know Waybig appeared like twice in the original series, but Waybig, he's Waybig. Like, do I need to explain anything else? Do I need to explain anything? Do I need to explain anything else? Like, he's Waybig, because my boy was a threat. My boy was a menace, and the way he was introduced was also really cool. Like, in Secret of the Omnitrix, once again, I think I said it in the last video, one of the best I haven't seen all of them, the best TV cartoon movies that I've ever seen from Cartoon Network. The way Asmund just rolls up and is like, oh, who said I couldn't fix the Omnitrix? In fact, I fixed the Omnitrix so good, here, try out this one. And the way Waybig just shows up, and he towers over everything, because he's just way too big. And the way he just casually manhandles Vilgax, like a being that has run fades, admittedly against almost the entire cast of the Omnitrix. Like, I'm pretty sure Vilgax at least once has fist fought all the top aliens. Like, I'm pretty sure he threw ran fades with Heat Blast, Forearms, Diamond Head, even Accelerate. He ran fades with everyone, but the most Vilgax could do was stab Ben once with his claws, and Waybig was just like, yeah, this empty. It just threw him straight out, like, yeeted him out of orbit. It was amazing. And then from that point on, you just knew Waybig was like the cheat button, like the cheat code. Like, if Waybig showed up, the villain was losing. There was no doubt in your mind that the villain was just gonna absolutely get dominated by Waybig, because he was that stupid busted. He was that unbelievably stupid, busted, broken. And I really like his design. With how complex it is, it explains why he doesn't show up that much, because he'd be a pain to animate. I can tell his design is really hard to do. I can't imagine how hard it is to move. But every time he showed up, and the only 2 times I remember him, in The Secret of the Omnitrix and in the Ken 10 episode, the way Future Ben transforms into Waybig and just wails on Kevin, it's just so epic. Like, Waybig's perfection, because every time he showed up, he was great. His design is great. His voice is great. Everything about Waybig is perfection. Great. Fantastic. And then we get to the final one. Now, I vibe with Accelerate so hard, just because, like, I like my speedy characters. I do. I like them in fighting games. I like them in media. I like them in books. I like them in anything they show up in. So, not only did they give me a speedy character, but they give me a speedy character with one of the most, if not the most, fire design. Like, the running suit, he's a velociraptor, he has the helmet, everything about Accelerate is cool. And every time he showed up, it was honestly because no one else could do what he could do. Because he was speedy. He was so speedy. He literally ran through whoever he was fighting because he just outpaced them so easily. It was literally a joke. Like, I have multiple instances of him showing up in my head, but I'm not sure how much he showed up. But whenever he did, it was cool. Like, when he shows up at the end of the Dreaming episode, where Ben just says, "Dream on!" Bam! Accelerate washes every Forever Night in the room. When Ben's in the baseball episode, and he completely rigs the game, because Accelerate's so fast, he basically freezes time when he's moving. Amazing. When Accelerate shows up and proceeds to, like, run circles around Vilgax, Ben's main adversary. Amazing. Every time Accelerate showed up, it was A1. And like I said, his design's really solid. His speed's really good. And once again, he's one of those aliens. Like, I'll give Diamond Head, Heat Blast, and Forearms this. They all had really solid utility because you could use them in just about every single situation that Ben ever needed. Like, there were situations where he did turn into Cannonbolt or he did turn into another alien, but he was going for one of the main 3 utilities, like his Diamond Head, his Heat Blast, his Forearms. But you couldn't put any of those 4 in Accelerate situation because they were too slow. They were just too slow. They didn't have the tool that Accelerate did, and it just worked out fantastically. So Accelerate's up in perfection. Great. I still say, like, if I were to not be mean, I still think all of the aliens are, like, okay and up. I'm just mean when I put the bottom 4 where they are and where they belong, in my opinion. But yeah, that's my view on the original Ben 10 aliens. I still think, yo, this show is amazing. Like, if I get my hands on it, I will rewatch it and I will probably scale it because I want. It's so good and so much fun to talk about. Like, I could probably do an entire video on just the expansive lore of the Ben 10 world. And I may just do it. Like, I keep telling myself I'm going to do videos, and I have, like, a list of videos I said I'm going to do on a video. And, like, I need to get to scripting them and stuff like that. But regardless, thank you guys so much for watching. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe. You don't know how much that helps me out. I really appreciate it every time you do. And I'm not going to drag it out this time. This is that guy with the pencil writing off.